Welcome back to Math 103. This is video number 5 on measuring power. Last time we were looking at finding the Banzhaf power distribution of the weighted voting system 6:432, so a quota of 6, but the same weights. So one thing to watch for will be whether we actually do a better job of distributing power in a 4:3:2 ratio, just as we had originally hoped. And the other is whether it even makes any difference at all that we have changed the quota from 5 to 6. Now, one possible narrative for raising the quota is that someone makes the argument, setting the quota at 5, the bare minimum, means that a narrow majority of votes are enough to pass a proposal, even on a very divisive issue. So for the sake of requiring a higher level of agreement among committee members, the quota should be higher. So this is one argument that is actually made. So in real life, quotas that are higher than the bare minimum actually show up. For example, in the U.S. Senate, in order to pass an ordinary piece of legislation, all that's required is a bare majority, 51 votes is enough, or in fact, even if the Senate is deadlocked 50-50, the Vice President casts a tie-breaking vote. But in order to stop a filibuster, in other words, to stop a senator from systematically stalling, it requires 60 votes. So the quota there is set higher. So this idea of having different levels of quotas for different situations does occur in real life. So now what are the winning coalitions? Well, the list of winning coalitions is now a little bit shorter. In particular, C together with S, with a total of 5 votes, no longer have enough yes votes to win. Okay, so this is no longer a winning coalition. Okay. But we still have NC and S with 9 votes, N and C with 7 votes, and N and S with 6 votes. Those are all still winning coalitions. But now we have also some changes in who's critical in each one. So notice now that N is actually critical in the Grand Coalition, which is to say that even if everybody else voted yes, but N decided to vote no, the yeses would not have enough votes to win. So N is actually critical now, even in the Grand Coalition, and is certainly therefore critical in any smaller winning coalition. Okay? And again, it is still the case that in the 2-member winning coalitions, both members of the coalition are critical because there's no such thing as a 1-member winning coalition. Now, having sorted out that these are all the winning coalitions now, and having figured out who's critical in each one, we count up and we find that there are now 5 instances of criticality, a total of 5 opportunities for an individual to exercise actual power. And therefore, the fractions in the Banzhaf power index are going to be out of 5. So northern New Jersey has 1, 2, 3 out of those 5 instances of being critical. Central New Jersey has 1 of them, and southern New Jersey has 1 of them. So northern has 3/5, which is to say 60% of the actual power according to Banzhaf's conception. Central has 1/5, that is 20%, and southern also has 1/5, which is to say 20%. Now that's interesting because it's still not the case that the actual shares of power are in a 4:3:2 ratio. We would have thought that northern Jersey should have twice as much power as southern based on the fact that it has twice the population, and that's why we gave it twice the weight, twice the number of votes, but in spite of having twice the weight, it actually has 3 times the power of southern New Jersey. Okay, and at the same time, central and southern New Jersey have equal amounts of actual power, in spite of the fact that central Jersey has a higher weight, a greater number of votes in the way we've set up this weighted voting system. So there are actually 2 ways in which our original intuition turns out to have been mistaken. Our original intuition was that assigning weights to the players in the same proportion as populations would distribute power in the same proportions. So we've seen that that turned out to be false, and it's still false. But implicit in that intuition was the idea that assigning the weights was all that mattered. Now it turns out that the same assignment of weights, but with two different quotas, results in two different distributions of the actual power. It's okay that our original intuitions were wrong. We move forward with the mathematics to understand what is the case. So we have our list of winning coalitions, our complete list with the critical players underlined, and we can ask, what new role does Northern Jersey have in the dynamics of forming winning coalitions now that the quota is 6 instead of 5? That's what we're contrasting. So now we see that every single winning coalition contains N. Okay, so N appears in every winning coalition, which is another way of saying that it is impossible to win without N voting yes. This also shows up in the fact that N is critical in the grand coalition. Even if you had everybody else voting yes, if N drops out and suddenly votes no, then there is no longer a winning coalition present. There's special terminology for this special type of player. We say that a player who can single-handedly prevent a motion from passing just by voting no, just by refusing to vote yes, is said to have veto power. Veto from the Latin meaning I forbid it. So an example is in this setting when we set the quota at 6 rather than 5 in our New Jersey Advisory Committee example. We had this list of winning coalitions with critical players underlined, and we observed that it is impossible to pass a motion, to pass a resolution without N voting yes. Every single winning coalition does contain N. In other words, there are no winning coalitions without N. So N has veto power. In other words, if N decides to vote no, then there is no chance that a proposal can pass. That was not the case in the previous example. It was possible before, when the quota was only 5, that C and S, the two of them, would have enough votes, just barely, to pass a proposal. But that is no longer the case once we've raised the quota to 6. An observation we just made that's really a very important principle and deserves a lot of attention. A player has veto power if and only if that player is a member of every winning coalition. In other words, there's no such thing as a winning coalition without that player. Before going on to the next video, please answer the following 2 questions. First, recall our original example of the New Jersey Advisory Committee. That was when the quota was only 5. And now the question is, which players, if any, have veto power there? And second, consider the scenario in which 1 million southern New Jersey residents move to central New Jersey, and the quota on the committee is set at 6, resulting in the following weighted voting system. So the quota is 6, Northern Jersey still has 4 million people, Central went from 3 up to 4 million, and Southern went from 2 down to 1 million. Now, which players, if any, have veto power?